Black Eye Perspective. And it's Navy's largest ship sinks. So this is just on the heels of some of the stories that we've already been covering, but this one is a second part to the first story that we did this morning or earlier this afternoon, depending on where you are. As you know, we did speak about one of the largest ships they have there sinking. So massive plumes of thick, poisonous black smoke rose over Tehran on Wednesday after a refinery located outside of the city caught fire in the latest of a series of mysterious industrial accidents that have struck Iran. Hours earlier, as we reported, Iran's largest naval ship, or their naval warship, caught fire and sank in the Gulf of Oman. News agencies reported the entire crew safely disembarked from the naval support training ship Krag, but all of its efforts to save the vessel were unsuccessful as it sank, the report stated. The fire at the Tongunyan, I want to say that correctly, I hope that's okay, Tongunyan refinery, south of the Iranian capital, could be seen from residential areas in Tehran. Videos posted on the internet showed several blazing fires at the site. Firefighters struggled to put the blaze out while the ambulances were mobilized and hospital beds prepared to treat any injured. According to the Iranian news outlets, the fire was spreading late Wednesday, burning up gasoline and storage facilities. The 1960s built facility is one of the largest oil refineries in Iran. Severe damage to it could further strain an Iranian economy badly damaged by the United States sanctions and decades of mismanagement by the country's regime. An official told the state television on the fire that it began an emergency liquefied gas line leading to the refinery. Another official was quoted as saying that the inferno was not caused by sabotage. Now, I don't know how they could say that, but you don't have any investigations finished. So, in their opinion, it says that it was not caused by sabotage, but there was no official explanation for the cause of the original fire. Iranian officials also offered no cause for the fire aboard the Krog. However, it comes after a series of mysterious explosions, as we said earlier today. In 2019, on the ships on the Gulf of Oman, they've had all kinds of things, and there was also the accusing from the United States Navy, accusing the Iranians of targeting the ships with limpet mines. Those were the timed explosives that we mentioned earlier. Iran denied targeting the ships, and even though the United States did find that footage that showed them removing limpet mines, an unexploded limpet mine from the vessel. Now, I don't know exactly how this whole thing is going to continue or how it's going to end, but I can tell you that I do have a couple of ideas of how it's going to end. This would appear to be one of those reasons, what we talked about earlier this past weekend, where we were talking about how things were just going to mysteriously go up. The prices were mysteriously going to go up. People were going to really, really start to feel it. This comes on the heels of several mysterious stories about things catching on fire, all dealing with oil. Now, there's been a couple of other stories that have been going on in the media just recently, and I think the same exact thing. They're almost targeting things. And so it's like you're finding out about stuff, but as you're finding out about it, you're hearing it happen again in another city, and it's something going on in another city, and then it'll go on in another country, and then you'll find something going. And so it's part and parcel of the plan. And I hate to sound like that, but there is, to me, and this is just my opinion, there is a concerted effort to cause this type of confusion, either to debilitate a specific place or a specific group of people or all the people. But I do know that it is the spirit that's rolling around right now. And so this is a portion of what we've got to say. But this right here totally is my perspective of what's going on. I feel like there's going to be an unbelievable amount of unrest in that area. And then folks, once it's to stabilize a little bit more, can go on in and cause a bunch of a bunch of ruckus. Now, there was a couple of other stories that I had today that I wanted to share with you guys, and I think that it bears to be stated. We need to talk about it because some of the destabilization that's going on in that whole entire region is really it needs to be, we need to look at it at the same time. All right. We need to look at it at the same time. And here's where I want to take you guys. I'm going to let you see this right here because this story, to me, I think that they're going to have a little bit to do with something else. Now that we see what's going on with regards to all of those fires and all the blaze and all that other stuff, I'm going to allow you all to peer into this with me. Let me come into the screen. There we go. All right. So if you guys can see that right there, I'm just going to get right into reading this because I do believe that there's going to be a lot more confusion. Israel's new Mossad chief threatens more assassinations and attacks inside of Iran. Now, this story was posted or printed up or published, I should say, June 1st. Today is June 2nd. Okay. So to me, that's telling us that there's a little bit of some plans for some stuff to go on, right? So I'd like to get into this story. So let me just go ahead. I don't know what you guys think or can agree with that or not, but it does tell us a little bit of something. It's sort of telling. On Tuesday, now this was on Tuesday, this was on yesterday. These fires and all this other stuff was today. But Israel's new Mossad chief threatens more assassinations and attacks inside of Iran. All right. On Tuesday, the new head of Israel's Mossad spy agency suggested more Israeli covert attacks and assassinations inside of Iran, and that they said inside Iran and should be expected even as the U.S. and other world powers are negotiating a revival of the nuclear deal known as the JCPOA. Quote, the Iranian program will continue feeling Mossad's might. We are well acquainted with the nuclear program and its various components. We now know, or we know personally, the factors that operate in it and also the forces that drive them, end quote. That was a quote from David Barnea. And that's what he said at his swearing in ceremony. That's what he was quoted as saying from the Israel's Ynet. All right. Barnea said the JCPOA negotiations show that Israel might have to act alone against Iran. Quote, the agreement with the powers that is taking shape only reinforces the sense of isolation in which we find ourselves on this issue, end quote, he said. He continues, I say it clearly, no, we do not intend to act according to the majority of opinion, since this majority will not bear the consequences for the erroneous assessment of this threat, end quote. Now, the story goes on to say Israel has a long history of covert attacks inside of Iran. Most recently, Israel sabotaged Iran's Natanz nuclear facility, causing an explosion. The attack took place in April when the United States and Iran began indirect negotiations in Vienna to restore the JCPOA. And last November, Iranian scientist Mohsen Fakhrizad, I hope that's correct, was gunned down in an apparent Israeli plot as tensions between the U.S. and Iran were simmering, all right, in the final weeks of the Trump administration. Now, Yossi Cohen, Israel's outgoing Mossad chief, also spoke on Tuesday and boasted about Israelis' actions against Iran that took place under his watch. He said, quote, we penetrated into the hearts of the enemy. That's what it says right here. Of the enemy Iran. We acted to constantly, gather intelligence and uncover its secrets and undermine its self-confidence and haughtiness, end quote. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu chimed in at the ceremony, and he said that he was willing to attack Iran's nuclear program, even if it, quote, risked friction with the United States. You see that? Even if it risked friction with the U.S. If we have to choose, he says, and I hope it doesn't happen, between friction and our great friend, the United States, and eliminating the existential threat, he said. The Israeli officials all claim that Iran is moving quickly to develop a nuclear bomb, but if that were truly a concern, Israel would favor a revival of the JCPOA since it strictly limits Tehran's nuclear program. So there's some stuff that's happening. Do you see what I'm saying? Hey, Paul, good to see you. Good afternoon. Do you see what I mean? I mean, that tells you there's something that's shaking, and it ain't that great. But there's definitely something shaking. So I don't know. It just appears that all this stuff is coming just one day after. So technically, one day after. This was said yesterday. And now all this other stuff is going on today. So it's not necessarily mysterious, right? Not in my impression. I don't find it as being something mysterious. Not when you consider they just said what they were going to do, right? Yeah, right. So it's like, well, we don't know what happened. Well, I mean, if you pull the pieces together, yeah, you do, because they just said yesterday for everybody to just be prepared. It just said, everybody get prepared, be prepared. So either we're going to be prepared based on what they said, or we're going to act like we don't know what's going on. And I don't think we're stupid. I don't think any of us are crazy. We can all see what's happening. Right. So I don't know. You guys tell me what you think about that down below in the comments. I know that this is a live news brief, but you guys tell me what you think down below in the comments. Let me know. Do you think that this is an accident? All the stuff that's going on back to back. Ironically, I was putting together one story. It seems to be that things are changing every day. As soon as you start to do one story of some significance, there's something that comes out that sort of ties up or ties into the other stuff that's going on, right? Right now, let me just give you guys this bit of information as well, because it may, as we look here in a minute, it may just tie into what we just got through talking about. This right here, let me let you see this. This is, here we go. I want you guys to tell me if you knew this, because I didn't know this until early this morning while reading some of the reports. Now, did you know that the U.S. is to hand over the Bagram Air Base to Afghan forces in 20 days? I didn't know that. I know you guys probably did. And you find me saying that quite often. I didn't know that. Did you know? Of course you knew, because you guys are the smartest chat on the planet. You guys are the smartest viewers on the planet. But yes, the U.S. is to hand over the Bagram Air Force Base to Afghan forces in 20 days. Now, let me just say this, that when you pull out your troops in any foreign country, it is not uncustomary. It's not uncustomary. It's not something that's foreign for them to turn the air base over. Sometimes they keep them and they just let them set and they do some things with them, but then sometimes they do turn them over. But this one is happening rather swiftly. According to a report from the AFP, and I think you guys know that that's the armed forces, okay? The AFP, the U.S. will hand over Bagram Air Force Base or Bagram Air Base to the Afghan government in about 20 days. Quote, I can confirm that we will hand over Bagram Air Base, an unnamed U.S. military official told the AFP. The report also cited an unnamed Afghan security official who said the handover was expected to happen in about 20 days. The base at Bagram is the largest and most fortified military facility in Afghanistan that has been used by U.S. and NATO forces. In May, the Afghanistan's Tolo News reported that locals in the Bagram witnessed the U.S. shipping truckloads of scrapped equipment out of the facility. Also on Tuesday, the U.S. Central Command, or CENTCOM, released its weekly update on the withdrawal process. It said the retrograde is between 30 and 44% complete, but the command is not disclosing troop numbers. CENTCOM said as of Monday, that the U.S. officials or that U.S. had officially handed over 6 military facilities to Afghan forces and removed approximately 300 C-17 cargo plane loads out of the country since President Biden ordered the withdrawal. Last week, the New York Times reported that the United States and its allies are on track to be out of Afghanistan by early to mid-July, well before President Biden's September 11th deadline. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin said the withdrawal was, quote, slightly ahead of schedule, but did not offer a timeline. While the withdrawal is moving along, the U.S. will continue supporting the Afghan military. President Biden's proposed 2022 budget, Pentagon budget, includes a $300 million boost in aid to Afghan forces. Oh boy, that makes a lot of sense. To Afghan forces, bringing the total of the United States assistance for Kabul to $3.3 billion. You see that number there? I'm not jiving, and you see what your eyes see. $3.3 billion. The U.S. is also looking to reposition the forces in the region, and reports from Pakistan say Islamabad has granted the United States permission to use its airspace for operations in Afghanistan and might have agreed to host a new military base. So there's a whole lot of moving and shifting that's going on while we're paying attention to a lot of the cornball stuff going on over here. Okay. Some of the stuff that I'm not even going to report on. I'm just going to say that if I say cornball stuff, that you guys more than likely know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. Yep. I think you do. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. So it doesn't even, we don't really need to deal with a lot of stuff that's going on over here, because it's a lot of stuff that's repetitive. It is a lot of things that are meant to incite you to be angry and to take your eyes off of this stuff, because this stuff right here can affect everybody, and it will, and it does. And so it's important for us to keep our eyes on the word when we think of these things. Now, I don't know whether you guys know about it or not, but if you have looked recently, and if you haven't, you may want to go back and look at Enoch. Go to the first through the third chapter. The first through the third chapters. Go through first through the third chapters and see what's going on. Okay? See what's going on. Paul says that what's shaking is the Israelis in their boots as paranoia grips a country that feels it's still God's chosen. Obviously, if God has your back, then why you covertly attack in Iran out of fear of Iran? Well, we're going to have to start another live, because this is just specifically a news brief, but I can tell you that's a string or a thread, as it were, that could be pulled and pulled and pulled and pulled. That part. So we're about 20 minutes. We're going to round it up to 20 minutes. This is 18 minutes and 20 seconds into this news brief. We'll more than likely come back and just, touch base on some other things. It's good to see you, Paul. I'd love to have that conversation, but I want everybody, if you get the opportunity, to go to Enoch and read the first through third chapters. And for anybody that says, oh, well, that's not the word, I tell you what, you go ahead on and hold on to that thought process. Meanwhile, all the stuff that's going on over there in that book is actually coming to fruition, and the same with the book of Revelation. Sarah says, Iran is one of the few countries left without their hand controlling the banking systems. Exactly. And that's the reason why our mindset needs to be to support not necessarily bad guys or bad dudes on any level, but we need to just pray that the Most High's will is done. That needs to be our concern. Nevertheless, not our will, but your will be done. Have your way, Yah. Let Yah have his perfect way in this earth realm. Okay, so his kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. That needs to be, because you don't know. And a lot of times what you're seeing is a lot of trickery, right? You're seeing something happen over here, then something happen over there, and your eyes are going to go based on what you lean toward, and your understanding is the direction you lean in. But see, our Father tells us to don't even lean to our own understanding. That's the reason why we don't cast lots for humans. Because once you start leaning to your own understanding, you can easily be leaning toward the wrong team. Does that make sense? That's why we don't lean to our own understanding, but in all of our ways, acknowledge him. This way right here, we need to be acknowledging him and putting it all in his hands. Why? Because it's not my will, it's your will that be done. And because you know all things and there's nothing hidden from you, then I pray for you to have your perfect way, your way and your will to be done in this circumstance. Okay. Yeah, but we do know some things that are already revealed to us that show us who the real people of that area are. And here's the sweet part: whether somebody agrees with me or disagrees with me, truth is truth. And the Father says that every single thing that is done in the dark will come to the light. So if I'm wrong, then you'll never see it the way that I do. But if I'm right, you can believe you will know that those folks over there ain't the ones. Okay. All right. You guys take care. And we should be back later on today, if not in the next few minutes here, but definitely later on today, because there's a lot of stuff going on. And to quote our brother Paul, what's shaking, what's shaking is there's a whole lot of shaking going on. All right, you guys, you all take care, and we will see you guys back here very soon. This is Felicia Lockhart, and this has been the Lockhart News Brief. Lockhart Perspective.